We're now joined by political analyst Sysman Motloung. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Peter, and thanks for having me. Greetings to your viewers also.
So there's lots of speculation in terms of the timeline of the president's announcement. Some suggesting that perhaps his hand was forced given the PR optics of his attendance at his Palapala farm. What's your take? Or is it just a coincidence that he was always going to make this announcement on Monday?
You know, I would want to suspect that he wanted to do this on Monday because as you hear his spokesperson saying he had already this prior engagement prepared for months before this past Thursday. And then what I suspect happened was some group of journalists who caught wind to the recent developments of an impending announcement of a cabinet. And then some journalists then were quick to announce this is happening on Thursday because they were the ones who wanted to break the story before everyone else. And this is what they announced before the presidency issued a formal announcement like they did today. So for me, it even now, like you are saying, now becomes urgent because there's now public pressure, there's now assertions and suspicions that you as a president put your personal issues as a priority over this sort of an announcement of a cabinet. I think it is not only the developments of a Thursday. I think the president has been under pressure for the previous weeks now for him to announce a cabinet, especially after Mr. Mabuza finally left office. It was expected possibly on that day or a day afterward for president to now announce who the deputy would be. But this sort of a delay is building that pressure against him.
I'm just wondering if, I don't know, social media, the public, maybe even journalism has created an unusual scenario here because the president can change his cabinet whenever he feels like. And I'm not sure that the Constitution says that he must replace a deputy president within a specified period of time. So all of these pressures have been coming through. When you're in charge, you can change your cabinet when you feel like. Do you think that the media, social media, political commentary has created an atmosphere almost as if it's a failure on his part not to have announced by now?
Yeah, I think so. And we see now the role of media in policymaking. It is becoming a very powerful instrument, especially this new media over social platforms, where people are able to directly tag the presidency, tag senior people who are policymakers. Now we want to appreciate that space because it is now becoming a platform to really hold accountable those that are in power. Then he could now on that side say, no, give the president a break. You know, there aren't any legal requirements for him to announce within a particular time frame. But here, there is something that is happening after the ANC National Conference, where a new deputy president of a political party has been elected. And this has an implication on the national output in terms of our national government, where the same person is expected to become a deputy. When the incumbent announces that I've resigned, now the president is the one who's holding me in office. I voluntarily left office as a deputy president. This is where now speculations arise as to why, as a president, are you not really appointing people? Also, you want to see that in that cabinet, there have been people who have resigned, and he's not replacing them. This has now become an issue for the public to know in terms of certainty as to who are the people who are responsible for specific ministries. Who do you hold accountable in that regard? So I think it's a positive development that we need to appreciate over social media in the country.
We then have to assume that the delay has been because he has to get this one absolutely right. A lot is riding on it in terms of the future of his party and maybe his own presidency. What do you think are the big ticket items that he's had to consider in trying to configure a new cabinet?
Yes, I think, Peter, at this moment, Mr. Ramaphosa is regarded as at the most powerful position in his leadership. The first term was that of balancing factions and rivalries, not to know how to act against certain heavyweight politicians if this will not lead to a backlash or a rebellion against his leadership. Now he got a second term, and he seems to come with a big majority of support. This is when he should be more decisive, even feeling settled in his leadership. But you still see a person who's not really there. We found the tripartite alliance partners, your COSATU, really now starting to talk about, I think Communist Party also feeling that they have been sidelined in this arrangement of a leadership after noticing that their people are not so represented in the leadership of the ANC. Therefore, he needed now to know how to balance those interests to ensure that the alliance partners also feel welcomed, feel represented. That is one thing. Then he has to know who are the loyal people who brought him back into the presidency that he could reward for their loyalty. And it's not only about rewarding loyalty. You want loyal people in your cabinet for the common vision, to know that you are not being opposed, to know that you have people who support you to implement a political vision. Look at how Mr. Mantashe is reacting. He's speaking a different tone to what the president is talking about. When the president is clear about an energy transition, Mantashe comes in to say, but there is that aspect that we're not talking about. He's becoming an alternative voice, an activist of that alternative voice. As to what extent is he defying the president, one cannot really say he's been deliberate. But you see Mantashe also being a trusted ally for the president currently. So those are the things he's looking for. Then the last part is about a diversity in terms of the generational mix, to how to retain the experienced politicians and then maybe bring in young people who will be mentored through this process as part of a transition in terms of your leadership, to know the next 5 years, 10 years of the ANC, who do you have at the senior level? So those are the things I think he wanted to look at. On that aspect of experience, you now hear him punted around already. The likes of Nkosazana Zuma must be out, Sisulu must be out. Now he wants to know as to these people, as he lets them go, how much experience is he losing and how does he make up for that? So for me, that is one of the things that he really needs to be looking at. And one other aspect is the remnants of the Zuma administration. As to when he came, it was a unity project, but we've seen that there hasn't been that reciprocity of a unity. The likes of ACE have been taken out. Now, within your cabinet, who of that faction are still remaining that are maybe possible that you can get rid of without really upsetting your state of power currently?
I suppose also a message of a professional executive is required. They talk about the professionalization of the civil service. We've seen in the past reshuffles where you're the Minister of Transport one week, next minute you're Minister of Home Affairs, the next week you're Minister of Communications. Surely that kind of thing can't happen in future. People must be chosen on their set of skills for a specific function.
Yes, definitely. Meritocracy is that issue that is a consideration. It's a very critical consideration. But in our context of South African politics, what we have is that deficit, the lack of specialization by our politicians. We have people who are not maybe graduates, who are not really specialists in whatever ministries that they've been assigned to. And I think it now complicates the issues. If you are the president and you want to appoint someone on merit, who do you have? Which one would know, would be a specialist in aviation, nuclear sciences, and so forth? In terms of energy, do you have a specialist within your group of politicians? This is something that is missing. And to professionalize public service and talk about professionalization within the group of your politicians, it's a problem from the local government level, whereby our politicians are not really experienced. Therefore, that one is something that it will be a very tough ask for him. I would want him to think, if you were to bring in somebody who will be paired with a director general that are specialists, or within that support group, they bring in professionals, because the politicians don't feel like it is fair for them to be sidelined in this regard when you're looking for qualifications. But it is something they are appreciating. I think you listen to the likes of the EFF. They are now starting to say to their people, you cannot represent us if you don't have a matric, for example. And that is at a level, a very low level. But at that very low level, you still need people who are educated enough to read financial statements, to strategize for the new future of a society that we desire. So that is a challenge for him. And I don't think it will be something he's able to do without going outside the ANC. That will be a very big challenge. Unless he goes to universities and there are some people who are ANC members that they know of, and then he can bring them in. That will be something nice to see happening.
All right, well, all eyes tomorrow and this announcement, but that's where we'll leave our conversation this evening. Thanks very much indeed for your thoughts.
Keep well.
Good night. All right, that was Sysman Motloung, who's a political analyst, outlining some of the challenges the president has in trying to constitute this new executive. Well, this time tomorrow night, we'll be unpacking the announcement at 7 p.m.